the focus of my ICWA fellowship is the rise of right-wing populism, primarily in Germany, but also in other Central European countries, so specifically Hungary, Poland, and Austria, and really trying to understand both the historical factors behind the rise of some of these parties and how that differs from country to country, and thinking about the ways in which populist parties are using historical revisionism and ideas of a national narrative, using rhetoric, historically charged rhetoric, and thinking about how these movements are developing today and sort of what the future looks like for them. If you look at the government that we have in place in the US, the election that took place in 2016, it's become increasingly clear to me that the trends that we see in Germany, the trends we see in Austria and Hungary and Poland, it stems from a lot of the same sort of basic, if not the same basic reasons, some of the same basic impulses and desires and concerns of the people who are casting votes for these parties. I think, the reasons that someone might have voted for Donald Trump in the US in a lot of ways may come from those same desires and beliefs and fears of someone who votes for the Alternative for Germany or the Law and Justice Party in Poland. What drew me to ICWA is the idea that it is extraordinarily generous in the amount of time that it gives someone to work on a project like this. And I've been a freelance journalist for about a year now. I go from story to story. I'm driven by the news cycle. I have to follow things when they happen and don't have nearly as much time as I would like to spend on any given story. And so, especially with a topic as broad and complicated as the rise of right-wing populism, with so many historical roots, with implications, with things that they're behind every speech, behind every election result, there are all of these reasons and things that we often don't have time in the day-to-day to deal with. I wanted to be able to spend 2 years looking at these things, really making sure that I understand it, so that whether it's in America or in Europe going forward, that I can cover these things with the confidence that I know the context behind it and that I'm actually adding something to the discussion. I'm feeling really great. I have been focusing on populism in Europe for a little under 2 years now, and I think getting to the point where I applied for an ICWA fellowship, I spent a lot of time learning the basics and knowing what my biggest questions were about why these things are happening and what's behind it. And so I am really excited to spend my ICWA fellowship actually starting to get answers to some of those questions. My experience with ICWA thus far has been great. I think that my conversations with the staff here, everyone is very interested in many of the same issues that I am and in the things that I want to be exploring on this fellowship. So, we've already found ourselves getting into a conversation that's, oh, well, let me just add one more thing, and it's something that clearly there is interest in and passion in on both sides. And so I am really looking forward to continuing those conversations, from across the Atlantic over the next 2 years, and think that they will be great sounding boards and a great source of support throughout this process.